844-5876. Or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. There's not going to be a quiz on all the places we're up here, but it's worth keeping in mind, particularly if you're interested in having that conversation about the things that affect us here in the borderland, because A, no one else is going to do it like we do, and B, the interaction that comes from these ways, these different methods were out there these days. You can comment on them. Yes, they require internet or smart devices, so to speak. So it's not certainly required by any stretch of the imagination, but if you really want to delve into and really get into the many interesting things that are said, particularly in those Thunderdome comments that shows up on the Facebook page with the Skeptic Squad forming just about every day, it's one of the better ways to do it. We'll have phone lines open up a little bit later in the program as we usually do, so no worries. As long as you can hear this signal and got a clear phone line, you can still chime in on this program. A lot of things we're talking about here today. Focus on Title 42, that deadline rapidly approaching for the removal of it. Next Monday, actually, is, coming up here very rapidly. Also going on right now for the primary runoff elections, and delving a whole lot more into the city manager contract. I know we think we may have touched on a lot of it, but we have developments happening even today, right now, as a matter of fact, going on with that contract because, well, if you thought it was over, you haven't been paying attention that much here. Not necessarily your fault, but longtime observers of city council and local elected bodies of most types, I guess you could really say. Not usually that simple nor set in stone here, so we'll certainly be talking further about that, particularly with our news partners over there at KFOX 14, talking with Stephanie Cipher, an investigative reporter with them, on what was covered this week, and even some things that have just happened as of almost the start of this show here. So again, if you wanted to chime in over there, as John Hertz as well, referring to the Biden administration on masks, I think that that as a major point may have sailed, but also relieving those reacts. We do appreciate Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, Flaco Jimenez chiming in over there. We do appreciate it. It helps with all those algorithmic things. So truly do appreciate it. So let's dive right in with some of these issues here. Actually, as of more or less of this moment, we are expecting there to be shortly a briefing and taking questions by, among other people, Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, of course, Democrat representing El Paso in the Texas 16th Congressional District, on Title 42 and on the implications of the upcoming end of it. So, expecting there to be a lot of interesting things said there, but of course, happening right at this moment here. John Hertz also saying you should tour Border Patrol facilities and see how much baby formula is to be given to babies of criminal. Okay, I just got to say here, one of the more uncomfortable aspects being brought up here is the idea that, no, it's okay to let some children starve. You're like looking for solutions to make sure that no children starve would be the obvious one for me, the potential solution here, because the idea of, forget those kids. Let's only worry about the kids I care about is just a little, that ain't the take, my dude. So yeah, if there's formula sitting in storage not being used, that's one thing, but saying, forget those kids, and I'm using a different F word in my head, let's just say, because that's the way it tends to come across. Just maybe look at your values and your choices and see if they're matching up with what you're saying here. Just saying. Anyway, border issues definitely on the top of mind here, so we'll see what's coming out of that. And John Hurd's also unimpressed with the Tommy Gonzalez here and the city manager position. But again, that may not be as settled as, well, initial estimates may have borne out to be. So we'll talk more about that here. Again, the interview we had with Estefania coming into it because, well, I mean, there's stuff even coming out right now. If you want to go over and see a preview for yourself, what we'll talk about after this interview, recorded just earlier today, as we do have a Stephanie Anna before she has to do her, of course, her own on-air duties to talk with us here, and more stuff coming out about this. So we'll set some basis and then get further into it here. So we're actually going to go ahead and take that first break of the hour right now, a little bit early, so we can get into this slightly extended interview. We got into it a bit here. We might eventually have to start breaking it up into two segments here. John Hurt saying she does not represent El Paso, I believe, referring to the congresswoman there. Okay, if you don't feel she represents you, that's a voting problem, but she is the representative elected as such for that. So again, if you had an issue with that, got a real simple solution for you. Make sure everyone you know, I mean, particularly if they agree with you or not, but just everyone you know goes out and vote here. So again, just as that gentle reminder, we do have voting for not that position, but others that will be also on the ballot right now here. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to go ahead and take that first break now, again, a little bit early so we can get into that interview here on Talk El Paso. Again, coming up after this break, we'll be talking with Estefania Seifer, investigative reporter with KFOX 14, delving into the deep details and what can be expected from these contract negotiations, with even some updates further to come here. So back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. If you're wondering about, what are you going to do for dinner, either tonight or even later this week, because I often find a little bit of comfort in planning out, knowing that I've got everything ready to go and make myself and my family a delicious home-cooked meal. Let me give you, again, that secret that I've been using to really make it both delicious and even easier than you might be thinking that it really takes. Because, I mean, the idea of making something from scratch all the way can sound intimidating, but few simple tricks can make it real easy, and the one that I definitely rely on is that of enhanced flavors. Don Kovac and all the variety that he has brought together as your local source for over 40 different varieties of olive oils, including extra virgin and flavored varieties, and balsamic vinegars, great variety they have there. Again, the one I most recently picked up was a jalapeno lime one, and boy, does it work beautifully, among other things, in marinades. So that's one of those tips that you can use to make sure that you've got something ready to go, ready to throw on either your stove top, your grill, what have you, and make dinner both simple and delicious. You can find them online at enhancedflavors.com. That's enhanced with a D, flavors.com. But also, you can find them out in the community. They're going to be out there this weekend at the Sun City Craft Beer Festival. You can also find me. I'll be out there myself coming up on Saturday in the afternoon, after some of our other programming, of course, here. So if you want to find them, find their full selection, because even though I have a couple that I keep in front of me, seeing the full selection is always impressive and worth checking out for yourself, because you can also try samples and find what really works for you. Again, enhancedflavors.com is the place to find all the information on them. Enhancedflavors with a D.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for a crash on the West Paisano Drive portion of the loop at Schuster over by UTEP. That accident is blocking the right lanes. I-10 eastbound is slow. Stop and go from Americas Avenue out towards Eastlake. If you're headed towards Sparks, you've got an 11-minute delay. Americas Avenue northbound at Socorro, crash there. And an injury accident, Fairbanks Drive eastbound at Dyer Street. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
It's a grand in your hand.
$1,000.
No NFTs or ESGs. It's $1,000 straight to you.
That is awesome.
Listen every hour from 9 through 5 weekdays for your chance to win.
A grand in your hand is brought to you by Approved Auto. Drive out in your new ride in less than an hour. Get payments as low as $159 a month. Worried about your credit? Don't sweat it. If you got your license and you got a job, they smell a deal. The deals are sweeter at Approved Auto, 8498 Alameda.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. Need to hire? Need Indeed. Their hiring platform makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates in one place. Sponsor a job and immediately get a short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
New on Curiosity Street, the Arctic, frigid, desolate, unforgiving. And without canine companions, early humans never stood a chance. Discover how man and dog learned to thrive together where neither could survive alone in Ice Dogs. Plus,
why would a Nazi major be protecting and saving Jews?
Against orders, against time, the SS major that sheltered and saved thousands of Jews. It's the good Nazi. Watch now on Curiosity Street. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit CuriosityStream.com.
Make the right choice for your house when it comes to windows and doors. The Window Depot provides over 1,000 in-stock vinyl windows, interior and exterior doors, plus all the supplies you'll need for installation and trim to complete the job, all at the lowest prices in town. Visit thewindowdepot.com to find a location near you. That's thewindowdepot.com. Stores are open Monday through Saturday, but they also offer online ordering and no-contact delivery. The Window Depot. Lowest prices, biggest inventory.
On the podcast Not Lost, embark on a journey to all the destinations on your bucket list. From Mexico City to Montreal, as strangers become new friends, drinking, dancing, and eating their way through each episode.
What comes to mind when we think of Montreal? I definitely think of poutine.
Of course, I think of cute guys. They're everywhere.
Listen to Not Lost on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. Brought to you by DuckDuckGo. Protect your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo.
You know, every 3 seconds, there is a new victim of identity theft. A criminal could be applying for loans in your name, selling your personal information on the dark web. Now, protecting your identity can be very easy thanks to LifeLock by Norton. No one company can prevent all identity theft or monitor every transaction of every business, but LifeLock, it's simple and easy to protect yourself, and you'll save up to 25% off your first year when you go to LifeLock.com or call 1-800-LifeLock. Just use the promo code Hannity.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Welcome back here to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to get at us, a lot of ways to leave those comments. We'll get to hear more in just a bit, but joining us right now here in studio, we do have Estefania Seifert, investigative reporter with our news partners over there at KFOX 14. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, and hi, everyone. Happy to be back.
Absolutely, because, well, let's just say we've had a current going on of major stories involving some of the things you've been reporting on. Of course, your investigative report's always important, but a little bit more on the, well, somewhere in between that and the daily story situation, but still going in depth because of, well, those very complex things when it comes to contract negotiations, specifically that of Tommy Gonzalez, city manager for the city of El Paso, because you have been doing some of that, again, daily reporting, but further also looking to it in depth on those current contract negotiations. So one of the question marks had been, we've talked about this a bit this week on the program, one of the question marks had been, what is his current status in terms of potentially leaving the city? And that has now been pretty definitively answered according to city releases, among other things.
Yes, so the city of El Paso did send a press release a few hours after the special meeting on Monday, where they did say that he had pulled his name from the list of finalists for the city manager position in Frisco. And that is going back to that special meeting. That one was called by Representative Cassandra Hernandez. There were 2 items on that special meeting agenda. The first item was to go over the performance reviews for the city manager and the city attorney. The second item was specifically with regards to Tommy Gonzalez's contract. And so no action was taken on the first one, which means that they'll probably still take it up sometime either this month or next month. And the second item is the one that they did take action on, and it resulted in a contract extension for the city manager with the potential for raises.
Yeah, that's the interesting part here, because among other things, what have been we talked about even last time we spoke here is that the city manager's contract was going to be up in 2024, but now this has been extended even past that. So this was not, strictly speaking, necessary at this point in time, because the contract would still been in place for another couple of years, but now it's been extended through the better part of the rest of this decade.
Right. So city council was in executive session for about 4 hours. When they came back, Mayor Pro Temp Peter Schwartzbein announced the decision that they had come to, which resulted in extending the city manager's contract to 2029. As you mentioned, the contract wasn't up until 2024. With addition, there were a couple of stipulations to this renewed contract, or this extension, if you will, which basically capped his salary at $450,000. Remember, currently he's making about $404,000, a little over that. It capped it, but there was the potential to increase that amount if a market-based review for 3 comparable cities came back and showed that city managers in these comparison cities were making more than $450,000. Then there was the potential to go back to the table and possibly give him a raise. Remember, they did table the performance review item, but that could also potentially give him another raise, a 5% raise, if they do approve his performance review and feel that it's satisfactory, he does have the potential to get another raise from that as well.
And so on that kind of market-based compensation aspect of it, we talked about that previously about those regional cities that are kind of built into his contract as it is, that there are the comparison rates based upon, right?
Right. I actually filed open records requests to see what these three, in this particular meeting, they refer to three specific comparison cities. And so we're waiting to get the contract back to see what those three cities are. But yes, we previously spoke about how there was a list of other cities to include San Antonio, Oklahoma City, Phoenix, Tucson, in his previous contract. So we'll see what the three comparable cities are this time.
So it would be probably reasonable to expect at this point, but again, the exact answer is still coming on what that comparison is going to be. And again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Estefania Seifert, investigative reporter with KFOX 14 and our news partners there. If you want to find anything more about her work, you can find, of course, kfoxtv.com. For most of them, you can also click under the KFOX Investigates tab under the news or the main search bar there. So look for all of that kind of work. So this has been a change, and City Council again in executive session on this issue for better part of a half day there. What were they saying coming out of this about the need to do this extension for the contract before it's technically up?
So it's important to know it did pass. However, it passed with a 5-3 vote. So there were 3 city reps who voted against this contract extension, and that were they were Claudia Rodriguez, Joe Molinar, and Alexandra Anello. I spoke with Joe Molinar and Alexandra Anello after the special meeting. Joe Molinar wouldn't go into a detail. He said that there were confidentiality clauses that wouldn't allow him to give specifics as to what they spoke about in executive session. So all he said is that, excuse me, for him, being fair was very important. The right thing was very important. That was the comment he gave. Alexandra Anello said she felt that there were still a lot of questions on the table and that she wanted to be part of a discussion, and it didn't feel like it was a discussion. She said that she felt like it was mainly a conversation between one of the city council members who called the meeting and the city manager, and that it wasn't a whole city council effort to put this extension on the table, I guess. She just was not happy with the decision, and she made that very clear after the special meeting when the decision was announced, that she just felt that there still needed to be more discussion, that there needed to be more of an explanation for the taxpayers, and so that's why she voted no.
Again, ultimately did pass, so this will be in place. And again, that release from the city, interesting in a couple of ways. A, what we already mentioned there, that it does announce that Tommy Gonzalez has withdrawn his potential for being that city manager of the city of Frisco, that Dallas suburb. That was kind of the genesis of this whole recent issue coming up about this, that coming out, I want to say last week, that first came out, and then all this action has more or less been in response to it here, but also very interesting in the other way that it goes into questions that even members of our audience have been bringing up, and probably rightly so, about exactly, what justifies this. Because a city manager, most of the city manager side of governments, as opposed to city council, is one of the more intractable sides here, only by comparison, in that it's not elected. They don't go out and campaign. They just kind of do the stuff that city council tells them to. At least that's the theory. So there's specifically the release net lists a whole bunch of specific things that they credit the city manager with, among other things, achieving $227 million in cost savings, then delineated a bit further out in other ways here, including tripling the fund balance by more than more than $73 million, among other things. So that's an interesting kind of justification coming out about this.
So, from what I took from city council members and what happened on Monday, and even with speaking with Representative Anello, I don't think they personally have a problem with Tommy Gonzalez. I think that they're happy with the work that he's done. I think it's more so the stipulations in the contract that they're uneasy about or they're unsure of, and mainly because constituents have brought up these concerns. And so they're trying to ask these questions, and because they weren't answered, that's where they felt like, I can't fully be on board with this until I have the answers to these questions. But Alexandra Anello did make that comment where she said this was nothing personal or against Tommy Gonzalez. It was strictly about the terms of the contract.
And given that we do have some city council elections that are going to be coming up in November here, constituent questions on this would seem very relevant to be responding to, because people who are going to be unhappy about this and don't feel they have it been explained well enough to them probably going to be, voting with this in mind here, because it's been one of the major issues that the city of El Paso has come out with here. So do you expect there to be any further action on this? We got that one pending item, I guess, of the performance review. Anything other substantive that you would expect on this?
Well, the original contract, the one that's in place right now, it wasn't up until 2024.
Right.
So when the new council came in, they would have the opportunity to look into it and possibly, renew it or not. And that's off the table because this contract has now been extended till 2029. Also, something to note, though, is that his contract, when I first looked into this in September of last year, alongside an attorney, he explained that his contract does have a clause in there where if city council does not renew him, he is owed a severance package. So either way, the city would have had to pay him whether he resigned with notice or if they did not renew him, they would owe him a hefty severance package. So that's the only thing that stands out to me, is that this renewed contract is not up for discussion in 2024. It's now up in 2029.
So, yeah, that's an important note to make here. Of course, this is going to be an ongoing one here as more action. And again, those performance reviews, other things come out from city council here. We'll be talking further about that. But that, of course, is not the only bit of in-depth reporting you've been doing. More of your investigative reports as well. We talked about it briefly last week as it was coming out that evening. But follow up there on Camp Hope in Las Cruces that had been connected with a different story you were also working on in regards to some vandalism going on in the city, and Camp Hope responding to that, essentially.
Right. So this, as I mentioned last week, this was a follow-up to the story about vandalism at businesses in Las Cruces. A lot of the business owners attributing the vandalism or the break-ins to homeless people. This brought up the name Camp Hope, just given the location of where some of these businesses are and where Camp Hope is. And so I went to the executive director. I brought these concerns to her, and she disagreed. Simply because she says that there are requirements to be able to stay at Camp Hope. It's a temporary, living situation for people who are, trying to find permanent housing. And there are requirements to be eligible. You can't have a background of drugs, of violence, and really, they're not there for very long. They're put into housing fairly quickly. She explained how last year they were able to they housed a little over 250 people. This year they're capping it at 50 just because of the shortage of supplies of housing units to be able to move them into. And so she just explains how they've been able to end homelessness for so many people who have maybe found themselves in this situation for the first time because they lost a job during the pandemic. They lost family or a spouse, were put in a situation where they ultimately ended up on the streets, and that's not where they want to stay. That's not where they want to be. And so they're taking advantage of the services that are being offered at the Mesilla Valley Community of Hope through a program called Camp Hope. And she did make reference that, so these are two separate things, right? So it's the Mesilla Valley Community of Hope offers daytime services, if you will, right, for the homeless. And Camp Hope is where they can stay overnight. Not everyone qualifies for Camp Hope.
Right.
However, those people who don't qualify for Camp Hope can still use the services that are provided by the Mesilla Valley Community of Hope during the day. So, I mean, there's obviously the help is out there, and that's what she was trying to get out, that message of, these are people who want to better their lives. They're put in a situation that's, maybe unfortunate, but that doesn't necessarily link them to crime. I'm still waiting to hear back from Las Cruces police on the stats of crime in that area. If they've seen any particular increase, or if they are able to link it to homeless people. Although just in my brief conversation with a spokesperson, I don't think they keep track of, whether a crime was committed by a homeless person or not. So that's just still data I'm waiting to get back.
Okay. Interesting there. And of course, your story up tonight, still talking about Land of Enchantment here, City of the Crosses specifically, but on a slightly different note, infrastructure, what you'll be going into tonight on KFOX 14 News at 9, right?
Yeah. So obviously infrastructure, very big topic lately because of all the money that's coming in for infrastructure projects across the country as part of the President's Infrastructure Plan Act, which was signed into law. And last year, I had done an investigation on the Bridge of the Americas, looking into who inspects it because it's owned by two countries. And so that looked into how often it's inspected, if it passed inspection, just because it's such a heavily transited bridge.
Pretty critical, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, lots of weight on that bridge constantly. And so looked into that. And as a follow-up, if you will, I'm looking into that, but specifically in Las Cruces. So I reached out to the New Mexico Department of Transportation to see if they had a list of bridges that were in poor condition in Doña Ana County. I'm specifically focusing on Las Cruces just because there is one particular overpass that is heavily transited. The other areas or the other bridges that were listed were in areas where maybe people don't really use those bridges. They're out in the county. And so I'm specifically focusing on one bridge that many of you may be driving on without knowing that it's listed in poor condition. Basically asked New Mexico Department of Transportation what that means. Obviously, it's still safe because it's open. People can still use it, but there are limitations on weight. And there are things that they're doing to be proactive, if you will, to try to repair this little by little until they actually get the funding they need to either maybe completely replace it or just give it the necessary permanent repairs that it needs. So the story looks into how much money New Mexico gets, how much money Las Cruces gets, how much money this project would cost, and which bridge it is.
Very important questions there. So again, tune into KFOX 14 News at 9 tonight for that, as well as then posted on the website, kfoxtv.com. Just again, look under the investigation tab there under news or the main search bar. Again, joining us right now has been Stephanie Seifert, investigative reporter with KFOX 14 and our news partners there. Thank you very much for coming in, as we do most Wednesdays, to talk about your work, some of the important in-depth stories that are going on here, and how people can find them for themselves here today.
Yes, of course. Always a pleasure. And of course, I also very happy to always receive the feedback from all of you listeners, and even the story ideas that I've received since being on the show. Very helpful things I'm already looking into. So please continue to send those in. And I start looking at that whenever I get the chance. And so I appreciate that.
Absolutely here. So we'll post up her social media again as we do on this thread here. So we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we will go ahead and open up those phone lines as we do during and after these interviews here. So if you want to call in, the number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. We'll be back after this break with more and more of the comments here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 News Update. Sunland Park firefighters say they were called out to 2 different rescues near the border within hours of each other. The fire department released pictures showing how a migrant who fell from the border wall had to be carried to safety Monday afternoon. A couple of hours later, they found a woman in her 20s alone in the desert who said she hadn't had any water for 3 days. Meanwhile, a woman is still missing after a mobile home was consumed by flames in Doña Ana County. We first told you about this fire Monday evening. Doña Ana County Sheriff's investigators confirmed that human remains were found in the rubble. Authorities say it's still too soon to confirm the gender and identity of these remains. According to Anita Skipper, the Chief Public Information Officer for Doña Ana County, fire was dispatched at 6:49 and the first engine arrived on scene at 7:06 and started to put out the fire. Investigators have not released the cause of the flames. I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 News Update.
cooling back into the lower to mid 60s. For Thursday, we're back into the mid 90s, and then we'll start our gradual cool down with a cold front coming in to cool us down for the weekend. Unfortunately, though, it does increase our winds, so we're breezy to windy for Thursday, slightly stronger winds on Friday.
This report is sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance, where you only pay for what you need.
Liberty. Nobody should have to pay for one-size-fits-all insurance coverage. Liberty Mutual customizes your car and home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
I'm Larry Gelwicks, the Getaway Guru. Join me on The Travel Show every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. We talk all things travel, favorite places, how to travel more and pay less, secret hideaways, discount airline tickets and cruises, and the best travel deals on the planet. It's The Travel Show every Sunday evening, 7 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. And I'll tell you where to go and how to get there.
Attend the Las Cruces Gun Show this weekend, May 21st and 22nd at the formerly Barnett Harley-Davidson dealership, 2600 Lakeside Drive, Las Cruces, New Mexico. See dealers selling the finest in modern guns, custom knives, ammo, scopes, Old West collectibles, and much more. Buy, sell, and trade at the Las Cruces Gun Show this weekend, May 21st and 22nd at the formerly Barnett Harley-Davidson dealership, 2600 Lakeside Drive, Las Cruces, New Mexico. Get $2 off. Go to azgunradio.com.
Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 on News Radio 690 KTSM, breaking down the impact of the news on the borderland and beyond. Brought to you in part by Mission Del Rey Southwest, Souvenirs, Gifts, and Decor. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Quit staring at your phone. Just leave it alone and get the Brake Masters. Get your tires aligned, then get out there and see what you can find. Get your vehicle in Brake Master shape today. Download coupons and schedule an appointment from your smartphone.
Brake Masters. We give you an honest break. This report is sponsored by Brake Masters.
Recently, we hit the streets and found out how informed people really are.
Yes, I'm on top of events.
Most news, yes. Except for these two.
I am not on top of events.
I'm not on top of my events, no.
They were clueless that every morning they can plug into the world with the news, weather, and traffic info that'll make their lives so much easier and more informed. Just like you and I do. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to get at us, regardless of what's going on. So yeah, just keep them in mind here. So usually we will then just say, we'll open up the phone lines, take some commentary on the segment we had. If you've got any other suggestions for things for Stephania to look into, again, appreciate her and our news partners over there at KFox 14. Mary Coleman actually having her own follow-up a bit here since City finally answered her question that 11 recreation centers remain closed because there is no staff. Individuals laid off due to COVID did not return. I suggested they paid people a living wage. What a concept there. A lot more comments coming in as well. I'll let people drop in those reacts. Definitely want to mention them here. Frida and Ramey, Calvin Williams, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Flaco Jimenez. Do appreciate that. And a lot more comments. John Brazelton saying a little bit earlier, but in addition to what Maria was also talking about, that I saved money by laying off lots of city employees during COVID. And Jose Luis Martinez saying, so why would El Paso trust in this guy's commitment? John Hertz not liking the running of the city of El Paso and hoping it fails. It feels like a little bit of baby with the bathwater kind of situation here. RJ saying that getting a job offer brings about opportunities. Might as well take advantage of capitalism at its best. And, John Browston also, cutting to the quick here. If you've been city manager for 10 years and you don't know where the bodies are buried, you're not much of a city manager. That's an interesting way of putting it here. But actually, so we talk with Estefania and the mornings here on Wednesdays about her upcoming segments here to allow her to get over to her studio in preparation for her on-air duties. But occasionally, even when we're talking about these kind of things, well, things will change slightly, specifically in this instance. Now, most of the things we're talking about are still accurate, or accurate at their time anyway, because yes, City Council has approved that contract, but specifically that instruction is then for the mayor to finalize it. And, well, just read the headline coming out this afternoon from our news partners over there at KFOX 14. El Paso mayor vetoes City Council's plan to extend Tommy Gonzalez's city manager contract. School Captain Williams saying that the city of El Paso needs a do-over. That might essentially be coming here. Specifically, that he has filed a veto plan to extend the city manager's contract, which was passed by City Council in that not quite evenly split vote, but pretty close here. So this may not be settled entirely yet. And that's the, I guess, real interesting part here. Isn't showing up on the city agenda just yet, because it only gets updated, I think, almost immediately before that. I've been staking that out online myself. But again, the information out now that the mayor is intending to veto this contract. So that leaves a few more question marks with this issue, including from that statement about rescinding or declining the offer for consideration from the city of Frisco. And this could put this all back up in the air. So that'll be coming, and that discussion, until something else happens, we'll, of course, keep our eye on it, because there's a little bit of possibilities happening here. Now, this is not a done deal, is what it comes down to, with the mayor flexing that potential veto authority, but we'll see exactly. Maria Coleman asking, where has the mayor been? I think he's had some idea of the feedback again. Even despite some of the city statements saying about, appreciative support, that kind of a thing here. I mean, there have been more than a few reasonable questions in my mind brought up about, well, what has been going on, the levels of compensation, what we're on the hook for, among other things. That Calvin Williams saying, do you think there would be a veto if it wasn't brought to light? I don't think there was any way this was just going to fall by the wayside. I don't see that having happened. But more specifically, I think discussion about it, I'm not going to take any credit for this, but I got to say, people making statements, making their feelings known, and being involved in the process, speaking with their elected representatives or the mayor in general here, I mean, it has a cumulative effect. If this kind of thing didn't happen, I'd be having a lot different feelings about our elected form of government that we do participate in. But specifically, if there's not even reason to consider this or reconsider it, okay. So one point that was brought up to me is about, okay, sure, and it's hard to place even much blame on the city manager in this seat here for doing, well, what any of us would probably do in a similar position, figuring out how to get the most compensation for yourself here. But let's just say this. Looking into some of the compensation number for this potential position in the city of Frisco, Texas, the only concrete number I was able to find here without having to go through FOIA, essentially, the Dallas Business Journal back in 2016 noted that Frisco city manager George Purefoy, I'm probably not saying that right, Purefoy, Purefoy. Not going to attempt to pretend I know how to say that is. But okay, so this was in 2016, so a while ago. Note that salary at that point in time was $239,950,000.88. But also that he'd been in place in this position since 1987. So, looking into a little bit further, again, don't want finding any concrete things about specifically the city manager from the city of Frisco, but well, let's just put it in comparison with some of the other positions there. They do list for this year, 2022, their compensation for assistant city manager as a starting range being about $163,000, maximum range being $278,000 a year, and then deputy city manager $179,000, just about $180,000 a year, and then $306,000 a year as the maximum amount allowable there. So we're still talking deep six figures here. Not exactly light, but, and while again, the actual compensation plan, without having to delve into the actual contracts here, not finding it listed over there, because that's a, well, different search pattern, I do suppose, does leave questions about, was this a comparable salary playing against the middle here? So that's a question that I think has started coming up, and I wouldn't be so surprised if this comes into just a little bit, some of this discussion here, and Calvin Williams saying, yeah, exactly, El Pasoans need to make their feelings known, and there's no better way to stay informed and vote. Yeah, those definitely go hand in hand. So, again, just in summary here, this is not settled. This is not something where it seems that the vote has happened and nothing else is going on because, well, the mayor has made a this will be the second time in recent memory, anyway, since his return to this position and office, that he has made some notable vetoes. So with this one coming up on the next city council, yeah, that'll probably be another interesting meeting to look at coming up here this coming Monday. So I have, of course, threatened to open up those phone lines as we do. So if you wanted to call in, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Ben here with us on the line here. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Andrew, just listening to Veronica Escobar and her news conference. Then all of a sudden, about maybe 5-6 minutes into it, I've got an interrupt into a commercial that went over and over again, and they kind of interrupted her news conference where you can't listen to it. Also, I tried to call or listen to your news program just a minute ago on iHeartRadio, and they kept on interrupting also, where basically they would start you and then they would kick you off. So
okay,
don't understand those things.
That sounds like a technical error, which sounds unfortunate, but I'll have to look into that further, seeing what's going on that end here, because, yeah, that definitely doesn't sound like how it should be working, and haven't gotten any of the reports of that out from elsewhere. So if anyone else is having problems, please let us know, because getting it through crystal clear as best as possible is definitely our focus here. But was there anything specifically you wanted to address on either of these points from the news conference or from our show so far?
Yeah, the other day, DEA Phoenix, last year, they seized 20,400,000 pills of OxyContin. That's last year. And 40% of those pills had a lethal dose of fentanyl in them. Also, the DEA and Homeland Security got an indictment and extradited the former president of Honduras recently. His brother, Tony Gonzalez, is in jail after the trial in New York, and he was involved in a 185-ton cocaine conspiracy with the Sinaloa cartel. So Veronica Escobar is telling us that we need to spend more money and send more money down to Central America and South America and everything. So we're going to send more of our money down to these corrupt countries, and so they can send more poison to our area. Does that seem logical?
Yeah, the tracking of money spent internationally is often let's just call it a tricky subject, because the amount of blank checks that have been written for essentially the only good answer I can figure it out, and I know there's a lot of people with bad answers saying there's bad reasons it's doing, but assuming, which may be my problem here, a benefit of the doubt that there is some purpose involved in it, is usually just for, influence more than anything. But yeah, the amount of blank checks that get sent internationally, I mean, we've talked about this at length previously, how concerning it can be in its own right. So short answer, no, it doesn't really sit that well in general, but in specific on this issue, neither are that way either.
Wouldn't you say that obviously we have a chemical warfare war going on at our border, and it's killing our people with fentanyl and other drugs falling across the border? And also, wouldn't it be a good idea maybe to declare war and say that the cartels should be designated as a terrorist group organization, and start taking them out their production labs over south of the border? We send drones over to other countries like in Syria and Iraq and everything else, and we kill people. I think that maybe we should at least broach the subject with Mexico, if they are truly on our side trying to help us. Why would they have an objection to us taking out production labs that are producing all this stuff and getting rid of these people?
Okay, in concept, I will agree with you that, I've been calling for it myself. Greater enforcement, greater focus, international law enforcement efforts is the way I've referred to it, focusing on these international criminal organizations. That's literally specifically what they are. chemical warfare aspect, I mean, I get what you're getting at there. The idea that, I don't think it comes from the idea of they want to eliminate people, but in their pursuit of profit, they have therefore, it's not even we got to keep our customer alive in order to continue to extract from them, first one free kind of mentality, but gotten into forget whatever happens downstream as long as the money keeps coming upstream. We don't care. And if, people are getting wiped out as a response to this. So I get what you're getting at there. It's a way to think about it. And I would say coordination with Mexican authorities, which is its own tricky and thorny issue, because I just got to say there's a level of discomfort I have of the idea of there being drones right across the border here flying and firing missiles into locations, because as we also know, that is not exactly a foolproof system here. So I might be a little bit apprehensive of seeing that being done. Honestly, out of the entire Obama administration, the vast increase of that program is one of the biggest failings, and I think really bad legacies we have going forth is the expansion of that. So yes, it is a tool we have definitely used, and I would just say look at the eastern parts of Pakistan to see how they feel about it, and would probably be seeing some very similar, shall we say, responses here within our region. So in general, the idea of curtailing this through, hook or by crook, and definitely by crook in this idea, probably a decent one that I would encourage being further looked at. But when you start getting to drones, that's where you're going to start to lose me.
Well, we know where the drug labs are. Our intel knows exactly where the drug labs are. And the Mexican government, if they are truly trying to curtail the operation of the cartels, and that's what they're telling us, how would they have any upset for us to go in and take out these production labs? We've got to. We definitely have a war going on.
Well, the war on drugs has definitely been declared for a lot. Let's just say what you're suggesting there, definitely a new escalation in the use of force into it. If nothing is done, I guess, if status quo is maintained, it's not a good trajectory. I'm not sure that's going to be the solution we're totally looking forward here, but tell you what, we got to take that next break right now in order to hit the top of the hour here. So I thank you for the point of the call. Something to consider here. We'll keep taking those calls here as we get into this next segment and the next hour here. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Eastbound on the border highway, Fonseca, stalled vehicles blocking the center lane. In the Low Valley and Socorro, Horizon Boulevard is slowing because of a crash just west of North Loop at Regina Drive in Horizon. Injury accident, Lee Trevino Drive, northbound at Rojas, and an accident reported on Paisano Drive, eastbound at Stanton. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Brake Masters.
Quit staring at your phone. Just leave it alone and get the Brake Masters. Get your tires aligned, then get out there and see what you can find. Get your vehicle in Brake Master shape today. Download coupons and schedule an appointment from your smartphone.
Brake Masters. We give you an honest break.
Sun City Craft Beer Fest, powered by iHeartMedia, happens this Saturday and Sunday downtown El Paso at the Convention Center Plaza. Over 170 craft beers from the best local and national breweries, plus live music, food trucks, a giant game zone, Sunday Fun Day specials, and more. Tickets include 10 samples of the beer or cider of your choice and a collectible beer glass. Get hosted beers and a free meal in the Dead Beach Brewery VIP Lounge. Tickets and info at suncitycraftbeerfest.com. That's suncitycraftbeerfest.com.
Hey, it's Mario Courtney Lopez, and we know life is better together.
Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
We are all getting together more, and Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day keeps us from worrying about bad breath in those up-close moments.
Go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find Smart Mouth at your favorite store to give you confidence as we get closer to each other.
Remember to make life's moments better together with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
On the new true crime podcast Betrayal, a woman chronicles her fairy tale romance gone horribly wrong. Her husband's secret life destroyed their marriage, shook their community, and ultimately sent him to prison.
Going through Spence's emails, Snapchat, whatever I could get my hands on. Just a punch in the gut every single time.
Listen to Betrayal on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. Brought to you by DuckDuckGo. Protect your privacy online for free with DuckDuckGo.
Maybe you've had to put off a health appointment or two during the COVID-19 pandemic, but if you're 45 or older, there's one test you shouldn't put off any longer. That's your regular screening for colorectal cancer. Colorectal cancer is the leading cancer killer, but can be prevented with regular screenings starting at age 45. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. It takes guts to put your health first. Ask your doctor about your options today and visit cdc.gov/screenforlife for more information.
If your summer plans include a new job, let Express Employment Professionals help. Visit expresspros.com for good local jobs in a variety of roles. With 850 locations, your local Express team is ready to help you find your next job. Go to expresspros.com.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. A lot of ways to get at the show. Of course, those social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We got RJ, Cav Williams, John Brazelton, Kathy Codry, John B. Hogan, John Herx, Flaco Jimenez, and more. Maria Coleman as well. Tuning in, chiming in over there. Also dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate Fred Ramey, Cal Williams, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Flaco Jimenez. John Herx a little bit earlier if I didn't mention that. Also commenting. We'll get into a whole lot more here because we got a lot of commentary going on both the aspect of the Welp city manager and this whole saga, as well as those border issues and fentanyl and all those stuff here. So we'll have to take that break to hit that top of the hour here. So if you're wanting to call in, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We'll be back right after the top of the hour news with a whole lot more in the second hour of Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Northbound at Memorial Highway on 375 Loop at Bob Hope, there's a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. Southbound on the Loop at Pelicano, a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder there. North Desert Boulevard, northbound at Paseo del Norte. That's an injury accident with El Paso Fire on the scene. A little bit of a backup there. And disabled vehicles blocking the right shoulder. Border Highway eastbound at Fonseca. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
As the country bounces back from COVID and mask mandates are lifted, your business needs a lift too. Promote your company right here, right now. Radio ads connect with 93% of Americans every week. That's more than Google, more than Facebook, more than TV. In fact, radio reaches 20% more millennials than TV. Want more of the people you want to talk to all in one place? Visit iHeartAdvertising.com and get AM and FM working for you. That's iHeartAdvertising.com. Attend the Las Cruces Gun Show this weekend, May 21st and 22nd at the formerly Barnett Harley-Davidson dealership, 2600 Lakeside Drive, Las Cruces, New Mexico. See dealers selling the finest in modern guns, custom knives, ammo, scopes, Old West collectibles, and much more. Buy, sell, and trade at the Las Cruces Gun Show this weekend, May 21st and 22nd at the formerly Barnett Harley-Davidson dealership, 2600 Lakeside Drive, Las Cruces, New Mexico. Get $2 off. Go to azgunradio.com.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs?
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Chris Coraggio. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is posting its biggest loss since 2020. The Dow nosedived over 1,100 points today at the closing bell. The sell-off extended to the rest of the market as yesterday's buying spree was short-lived. At the close, the S&P 500 dropped by 165 points. The NASDAQ lost 566 points. President Biden heads overseas for trips to South Korea and Japan tomorrow.
To deepen two vibrant economic partnerships, to work with two fellow democracies to shape the rules of the road for the 21st century.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the trek will highlight the importance of strong U.S. relations with Indo-Pacific nations. During a White House briefing, Sullivan says highlights of the trip will include discussions about economic challenges, security, and climate change as well. Security issues involve North Korea's nuclear program and China's growing influence in the Indo-Pacific region. Meantime, the White House press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said that President Biden will not visit the infamous DMZ that separates South and North Korea during this trip. President Biden is urging people to pay close attention to weather alerts during the upcoming hurricane season. Before getting a briefing on hurricane preparedness at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland, Biden said the government is ready for another active season. He warned that storms are growing more intense with shorter notice for readiness. Biden noted climate change and also talked about the prospects for more wicked wildfires in the western U.S. A winner is yet to be declared in the race for the Republican nomination for Pennsylvania's open U.S. Senate seat. Dr. Mehmet Oz and former hedge fund CEO David McCormick are in a virtual dead heat. The race is expected to head to an automatic recount. Over 1,200,000 ballots were cast. The man accused of providing escaped Lauderdale County Prison inmate Casey White and corrections officer Vicky White with a motel room is under arrest. The Courier and Press reports 51-year-old Sean Gardner was paid $100 to secure the Motel 41 room in Vanderburgh County, Indiana. The Whites stayed there until they were found. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. One of New York City's own could host the Oscars next year despite his shocking experience at this year's awards. Deadline reports ABC Entertainment President Craig Erwich is open to the idea of Chris Rock hosting next year's Oscars and said, despite Rock's now infamous slap from Will Smith, this was a really successful year for the show. Audience numbers were up nearly 60% and over 16 million viewers tuned into the broadcast, with Smith's slap prompting a big spike in viewership. Rock, who was raised in Brooklyn, continues to tour the comedy circuit, and while acknowledging the slap incident, he's largely kept mum on the subject, promising to address it later on Netflix. The stars of Chrisley Knows Best are on trial for bank fraud and tax evasion. The patriarch of perfection, Todd Chrisley, and his wife, Julie, are accused of swindling more than $30 million from small community banks. Prosecutors say they falsified bank documents by inflating their net worth to get bigger loans. The federal trial is expected to last 3 to 4 weeks. Broadcast journalist Chris Wallace is heading up a new show on CNN. The network announced plans for Wallace to host a Sunday evening program. This comes after the veteran anchor left Fox News Sunday last year to join CNN. Reports say Wallace's new show will be a part of a new CNN Sunday block with a similar concept to CBS News' 60 Minutes. A Wisconsin man is celebrating 50 years of eating his share and then some of McDonald's Big Macs. Here's Scott Carr.
2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, and a sesame seed bun.
Don Gorski of Fond du Lac claims to have eaten all of it, not only once a day, but twice daily. And he's made a bit of a spectacle out of it, holding news conferences, like 4 years ago when he celebrated eating his 30,000th Big Mac.
People ask me, one of the questions is, what's my second favorite food? It's lobster.
Gorski now says the total is over 32,000, and he'll continue eating them until he dies. I'm Scott Carr.
And in music history, on this date back in 1974, Bachman-Turner Overdrive released the single, Taking Care of Business. I'm Chris Coraggio, NBC News Radio.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Spring. That's spring. Enter it now.
This report is sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving at mad.org.
Have you or someone you know been impacted by a drunk or drugged driving crash? MAD is here to help. At MAD, they provide services at no cost for the victims, like emotional, judicial, and access to financial support. Call 1-877-MAD-HELP.
You know about their great deals on windows and doors, and now the Window Depot has everything for your complete home remodel. The Window Depot is a one-stop warehouse with the lowest prices and biggest inventory on in-stock laminate, butcher block, granited quartz countertops, plus flooring and tile to finish your project. They also offer a huge selection of in-stock cabinets, or their designers can special order your cabinetry in a variety of colors and styles. Stores are open Monday through Saturday, but they also offer online ordering and no contact delivery. The Window Depot, more than a window store.
Dad, this is fun. I didn't think I liked kayaking.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back?
Sure.
Tomorrow?
Let's check with Mom. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a kayak, Dad.
I'm going to return the kayak. Just make sure you have everything.
Yep. Can we walk home?
How about a taxi? 233 North Maple, please.
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Also, find fun activities to do like boating and biking or camping and hiking, plus much more. It's all right in your naturehood.
Best day ever.
A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media outlets we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. No, we're not banned on any of those, so if you happen to be on one of them, find us on the others. That's part of the reason we're in all of those places. And it's not a quiz, it's not a test, it's not a you better remember where we are, otherwise you flunk. It's a way so you can remember how you can get involved with the program, because we also have that phone line open right now. That number to call is, of course, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Again, if you're calling in the middle of a segment, it might be put on a brief hold, but we'll get to you there. Just make sure to stay on the line and listening to the phone, because we'll be happy to talk with you further here. And a lot of stuff we're getting to here today. Of course, we have got city managers' salary compensation and contracted issue. Again, appreciate the conversation we had with our news partners over at KFOX 14 and Estefania Seifert, investigative reporter with the same, talking about what she has uncovered and been able to talk to city council members about these contract negotiations, but also, of course, that impending veto discussion coming from the mayor to potentially overturn this. We have at least 3 votes that did happen against it in the vote that happened, well, earlier this week. So this will definitely be roaring right back to life early next week, maybe even before then. And of course, Title 42, some of these issues, discussions, all that stuff going on right now, among other things, but also a whole lot of comments coming in here. RJ, Catherine Cordry, Calvin Williams, John Brazelton, John Hogan, Flaco Jimenez, John Hertz, and more tuning in, chiming in. Maria Coleman a little bit earlier, and also dropping those reacts, which we do appreciate, over on the Facebook primarily. Freda Ramey, Calvin Williams, Robbie Flores, Monica Cervantes, and Flaco Jimenez. Just helps with all of that parts of our mission here. RJ saying that, okay, maybe I'm just not qualified to assess the mentality of someone who regularly uses recreational drugs. RJ saying, actually, Andrew, that dealers will make a strong batch and OD some customers to increase sales. Everyone wants the strong stuff. Crazy but true. See, I just don't know if I'm capable of even fathoming that kind of an idea, man. Did you get the strong stuff? Yeah, gee, here it killed Jimmy last week. Oh man, that's the stuff I want. Like, I'm not putting the pieces together in my head as of any part of that being desirable, but I guess in kind of it almost sounds like a bad joke that way. How do you know the stuff is good? Well, it killed 3 people last week, so that's how you know it's the good stuff. Like, it's like that's just dark humor that scours certain parts of the internet. But so maybe I'm just not at all qualified to consider what marketing appeals to people who regularly use that. I'm willing to admit when I am unqualified for something, and apparently I am with that here. Catherine Codry also mentioning that marijuana laced with fentanyl also coming across the southern border. Yeah, that I was aware of. I guess the real part that is very concerning, because with prescription prices being high, people going to saying, oh, well, go to Mexico or find another supplier or order it online, that kind of a thing, and not knowing that they're ending up with it. That's what I really feel for, and why, when we talk about such as programs here in the borderland, with including local law enforcement carrying that Narcan for those that, again, had through no fault of their own ending up being exposed to it. That's why I think that locally is a very important issue to discuss here. Kelvin Williams also saying the problem with America is that not enough people of those alive today watch the Andy Griffith show. I got to admit, I'm part of that problem there, so sorry to date myself here. And a whole lot more, John Brazelton and others. John B. Hogan calling this move by Tommy Gonzalez a ruse and, disapproving of the conduct, shall we say here, and a whole lot more. So let's end Flaco Jimenez on that whole contract negotiation, pointing out that the population of Frisco is about 215,000. So maybe it'll be worth it, but this whole process has been one heck of a roller coaster, and the ride ain't done yet, is all I'm going to say. But let's go back to those phone lines right now. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We have Jerry on the northwest side of town calling in right now. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. I have to make a correction, and then I have to make sure that people didn't understand me yesterday, and then I need to make an announcement, and then I have a question for you.
Certainly.
Okay. All right. Correction is I was wrong. The shooter in Buffalo did say himself that he was a white supremacist. I was wrong. He's a white supremacist. The misunderstanding. I was not saying that we should bring everybody up on charges that influence other people.
Okay.
And bring them into court. I'm saying if they're going to start that stuff, the left, then we need to start that. Carry it on to the professors that are doing the CRT, because I believe CRT was part of the part that caused that kid to go on his rampage. When you tell people that you're pawn scum, and then you expect good behavior from them, and they act like pawn scum, and you act surprised, you just, that's just shooting yourself in the head. You teach them they're pawn scum, they're going to act like pawn scum. Okay. The announcement is the Biden administration is planning on using VA funds to help immigrants that are crossing the border.
One of the proposals they've made, yes.
Against the law. That's misappropriation of funds. And I'm asking all you veterans out there, get a hold of your congresswoman and your senators, both, and the congressmen from the east side of El Paso, and explain to them that we need our money as veterans. That does not need to go to somebody else. That's misappropriations of funds.
So before we get to your question real quick, just on that point here, it's actually, I'm going to say just a little bit worse than that, actually, because sure, funding amounts that are resources given to the VA being used otherwise is the sum total of it here, but it's not just funds being taken away. It's not saying, oh, by the way, you won't have funding for this. It's literally saying, oh, by the way, we're going to want to use personnel, the actual doctors and medical staff assigned to those working for the VA. That is the proposal being floated there by the Biden administration to then be shifted to be used elsewhere. So in my analysis, if you're saying that you're concerned about funds, this would go further than that, in my estimation.
I agree with you. So, and then if I left that out, I apologize.
No,
they should not be using our doctors.
It's a finer point here, but it's an important one.
If the doctor wants to go on his own time, that's his business. Okay.
Fair enough.
If he's not getting paid by the VA, he needs to be in the VA clinic or seeing VA members. Period.
I'm not going to find much of disagreement with me on that point.
Okay. Third one is the question, or fourth one is the question. Do you know the difference between I lost my train of thought there. The theory of oh heck, I'm gonna have to get back with you on this, Andrew, because I lost my train of thought and my wife just drove up. I got to let her in the yard.
Okay, fair enough. Do what you need to do here. Appreciate the point of the call. You have a good one here. I mean, if you got more questions, we do this every day for a reason. So if you got further points we need to get to here, we'll definitely get further talk on it here. But we have at least one other call on the line here. Get to quickly before ending that, getting to that next segment here. Again, the number to call is 915-544-5876. 544 KTSM. We do have a call on the line here right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Rob. About your caller who wants to bomb drug labs in Mexico. We got drug labs in the United States. I mean, if we knew where the drug labs were in Mexico, we know where the ones are in the United States are. Why not bomb the tobacco field out there? Kills 480,000 people a year. Or the liquor distillers, so there are not a lot of drugs here that are legal. Why we're big concerned about that?
Raul, hold on 1 second there. I think you're hitting your keypad here. You're getting interrupted there, so make sure you're in a good signal area if that's not the case here, but continue.
Okay. About me being a nihilist, I used to have a radio program called Everybody's a Philosopher. And my first engineer was a young man who was going to college at G. Austin. He finished his junior year, but for some reason he didn't want to finish his senior year. And so he was doing the engineering there for my show. And I asked him, by the way, you know, what were you studying at UT Austin? Well, I was studying philosophy. And, well, what is your philosophy? Since my program's called Everybody's a Philosopher, he says, I'm a nihilist. I said, really? Well, tell me, what's your idea of nihilism? Well, nothing matters and everything's relative. And I said, well, you know what? I don't believe in that. I think things do matter. You know, people's rights matter. And I said, and you know what? You matter to your family. And I don't think everything is relative. I think there is right and wrong, good and evil. So to characterize me as nihilistic is not to know me, Andrew. So that's what I have to say about that. And I was saying that the Department of Justice now is requesting witness testimony from the January 6th Commission, which means that right around the corner is probably an indictment for Donald Trump.
Again, I think that that's been a little bit aggrandized here. I mean, if such a thing were to come out, we'll certainly talk about it. But, okay, I do not pretend to know anyone by what they put forth in these phone calls. I mean, we have conversations, some people more than not. But to say that I have any, therefore, truly insight into your mind, I mean, how can you say you truly know the mind of any person in this world? But to the point of then branding as some of these statements of nihilism, I only know you from what you have put forth, from what you have stated, what you have commented on this program here. And so to say that they're essentially, to reduce down the logic that you're bringing forth there, that the, you know, Almighty has caused there to be death in this world, that disasters happen. Therefore, why should any death therefore be decried, be said as bad, be labeled as anything less than that? Again, I guess another phrase as well, hubris, the idea of the inhumility in the face of God or gods, if you want to use it more in the classical sense here. But seriously, you're going to tell me that that idea of a philosophy that death exists, therefore why does any other death matter? Why should any death matter than more? Is not at least the smatterings or the smackings of a little bit of a nihilist idea there. I am not pretending or claiming to be any great philosophical, well-read or genius on the matter, but I know well enough to say that when someone is saying, and therefore nothing matters, to getting a little bit closer to that idea here. So if you're not a nihilist, prove that to us by what you say and what you espouse and what you believe. But when you start going to these reductive arguments, and I would say that the same to the previous caller, that the idea of, well, if they're going to do it, we need to do it as well and as better and faster. It's important not to compromise your own morals and values in the face of your opponents. That's literally called to stooping to the same level. So by saying that, well, this is something we never do, but if they're going to do it, we need to do it better than them. I mean, that's straight up, you know, well, we cannot allow there to be a mine shaft gap kind of philosophy on its own level. So that's what I got to say about that here. So thank you for the point in the call here. We'll certainly get to more of it here. Got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll get to more comments, more calls, more questions on the line here. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of issues, and a lot more conversation we will have here on Talk El Paso. Again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Let's start out in the Low Valley on I-10 westbound approaching Loop 375, a crash reported. I-10 eastbound at Airway, a stalled vehicle is blocking the left shoulder. I-10 westbound at Sunland Park, a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. And an injury accident with paramedics on the scene, South Mesa Hills southbound between Sunland Park and Mesa. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Brake Masters.
Quit staring at your phone. Just leave it alone and get the Brake Masters. Get your tires aligned, then get out there and see what you can find. Get your vehicle in Brake Master shape today. Download coupons and schedule an appointment from your smartphone.
Brake Masters. We give you an honest break.
If you're 45 or older, this message could save your life. Health experts now recommend starting regular colorectal cancer screening at age 45. Colorectal cancer is the leading cause of cancer death, but it's preventable through regular screening. There are more screening options than ever before, including at-home tests. You've got the guts to prevent colorectal cancer. Talk to your doctor about your options and visit cdc.gov/screenforlife for more information.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
If you think making false threats is a joke, think again. Any communication threatening students, teachers, and staff at schools or public places is a federal crime that could lock people behind prison doors for up to 5 years.
I'm FBI Deputy Director David Bowditch, making you aware that hoax threats have real consequences. We don't want to see a young person begin their adult lives with a felony record.
Making false threats is not a joke. Think before you post. Visit FBI.gov.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our various social media pages that a lot of people are commenting on right now, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, under either Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Search those up, and you'll probably find us talking about all the things that affect us here in the borderland and beyond. And a lot to be talked about here because, well, contracts, ever that so simple issue that we get up here, and a whole lot more coming on here. Yes, we are waving, and a lot more that we'll be getting to here. Again, those phone lines open right now, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Number to call there. And again, commenting, Calvin Williams, Louis Pinato, Catherine Cotry, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, RJ, Maria Coleman, and more. Maria Coleman on the old issue of the city manager contract, that we have the opportunity to elect a new mayor every 4 years, but a potential new mayor and city council are stuck with this individual until 2029. This should be unacceptable to the voters. Again, not that done of a deal, but that was essentially the concept behind this most recent vote that did happen. Stay tuned for what will happen this coming start of the week as we have that next city council meeting with this reported to be on the agenda, but we will be, stay tuned for that, because the mayor having essentially said that, or at least motioning that he will be wanting to look at a veto on that issue of that up to $450,000 a year contract plus benefits and stipends on top of that. So, yeah, I wouldn't call this a totally done issue just yet, but also Catherine Codry pointing out that today gas was a $430 at the Circle K. On over closer to our offices here on the west side, I was seeing up to $450, and it doesn't look like that's going to be getting better anytime soon. If that congressional investigation was going to be sincere about it, would certainly hope that it gets off the ground and moving quickly, because, yeah, it's a little bit painful, but also Catherine Code reporting out, yeah, $520 then for diesel. That's a conversation we'll probably be having in coming weeks on the show, because yeah, that'll be serious and significant impacts in its own way here. I just filled up one of our station vehicles on part of our events here, and it wasn't even my money, and I still felt the pain as I saw, going over $100 for the first time I've ever filled up a vehicle. And this is something that I filled up this vehicle before, and it was never that high. So it was even just immediate pain out of my wallet, but like pain by proxy, if you take my meaning there. Yeah, so that's not great here. Kevin Williams taking some logical extremes here. I was driving down I-10 and a guy was speeding, so if he's going to speed, I should too. Unfortunately, that does seem to be some of the logic being used on I-10, because if you think 60 is the speed limit, you're going to have a whole lot of angry people behind you honking. So I am not advocating anyone do anything besides a posted speed limit, but let's just recognize reality here. If you're doing 60 and you're in the left lane, particularly when it's down to 2 lanes in some areas of town, you're going to have a bad time, and you're going to have actually had an incident of road rage happen a couple years ago. First time ever, well, since the advent of the pandemic. Guy just unhappy that I was doing I'm not going to admit to a number here, but let's just say the speed limit was apparently a suggestion that day, and very unhappy that I wasn't doing what his idea of the speed limit should be. So, yeah, you're probably not going to have a great time out of it there. RJ letting us know 80 for him. Again, good luck. Wonder if radar detectors, they're still used, or they're still effective here. I had one growing up here, but haven't used one lately. Again, not advocating any kind of activity that would otherwise violate any kind of law. I am not an attorney. Don't sue me. Anyway, getting back to those phone lines right now. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. I'm calling the line here right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Yes, this is Nate East.
Hey there, Nate. What's on your mind?
Yes. Okay. Thank you for taking my call, Andrew. I just wanted to say good afternoon to El Paso, and it's something that's good for the community. I just want to encourage everyone. On May 28th, we will be at the Fort Bliss National Cemetery. Because we have the interest in El Paso and our local community, we have a national cemetery here.
Mm-hmm.
And beginning at, say again, hello?
Yes, absolutely. Continue, please.
Oh, okay, I apologize. But on the morning of the 28th, we'll begin at 8 a.m. It takes us about 2 hours. We will put out over 4,000 and approximately 500 flags, one at each grave site.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Are we breaking up? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Yes, no, yeah, just agreeing with you that is a good thing to be doing. So, yeah, please continue describing it here.
Yes, absolutely. Just real quick. And then it takes about 2 hours. So please, El Paso, come out and support that. And then, of course, on Monday is the actual Memorial Day event. Look up the schedule. I'm not going to advertise everything myself right now because I don't want to get ahead of what the cemetery may be doing or whatever the case may be. But also all that week following, from Tuesday through Saturday, we will be retrieving the flags. And you'll help them get out, get some fresh air, get some of this good old El Paso sunlight, and let's do something good for our community, okay? That's something that you can choose to do on your own, and nobody have to govern you or force you to do it, but you got to feel it from within inside. We have more veterans here per capita than any city in America. God bless you, Andrew, and the radio station, all the listeners, and God bless our great nation. Thank you so much for allowing me to share that.
Absolutely here. Yeah. Memorial Day coming up at the end of the month. No, it is not the kickoff for grilling season. It is a very important day to keep in mind there because remembering those that served and gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country, it's literally a cornerstone upon which we lay the foundation of the life we live today. So remembering that is not even just an important thing. It it is something that you got to really be more active with because, seriously, it is what we are built, everything we have. Every sacrifice that has been given in the name of this country and in the name of us living here today, if they can mention a more important thing than that, particularly on the day that is designated for it, I'm going to be hard-pressed to understand that. Participating myself in previous years, been out there because I have relatives out there. And if you've never been to, again, the Fort Bliss National Cemetery, you do not have to go onto or through the actual Fort Bliss gates. There is an entrance on there under Spur 601. So again, look it up because you really again, that is going to be A.W. Hill asking. That is going to be on the 28th. So that is that coming Saturday here on the 28th. They're going to be doing it that morning. As we get more details coming out, because we're still a couple of weeks out from that. Well, better part of a week and a half out from this point here. Well, as we get more details, we'll be sure to share them here because, of course, that is them putting out the flags. And then, of course, Memorial Day itself, they'll be having more ceremonies and more events going on there. Had the opportunity to cover it in years past as well. Again, it's all important, and if you've never been out to it, you can find it moving for yourself here. So would highly recommend if you get the chance to go and do that. So again, the answer to A.W. Hill's question, the 28th is that day they will be putting them out in that morning. And then, of course, Memorial Day on that Monday, May 30th. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take that next break right now. Coming out of the break, we'll get to more of the calls, more of the comments, more of the discussion about the things affecting us here in the borderland. So stay tuned for more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, that number to call if you want to add your 2 cents, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned. Something that we have going on, of course, is keeping yourself well groomed with all the events and stuff going on. We talk about more than a couple of events on this program. And so looking good, feeling good can often go hand in hand. And that's one of the many reasons that I trust literally all of the hair on my head to Gentleman's Republic Barber Salon and Men's Spa because, well, they've got a great slate of services and just about anything you'd want to get out of those traditional arts of barbering. Plus, of course, the more modern services that you can get from your favorite salon. That's why it's baked into the name Barber Salon. Now, it's not a contradiction. It is an evolution of what is available and how you can truly help yourself and those important men in your life feel like a king for a day. And I do mention those important men in your life because among the other holidays that we're talking about, Father's Day is rapidly approaching. Don't leave yourself high and dry and not sure of what to do. Make it simple. Get him what he really wants, a truly great experience out at Gentleman's Republic. Again, Barber Salon and Men's Spa. You can give them a call, put your appointment directly with them. Let them know you heard about it here, 915-532-3000, 915-532-3000. We're going to find everything about them, including their services and more, online at gentsrepublic.com. That's GENTS Republic.com.
Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Selena Madrid with your CBS 4 News Update. With the shortage of volunteers in space, city leaders and local nonprofits tell us shelters are stretched thin and at capacity. Emergency Management Coordinator Chief Jorge Rodriguez says El Paso is currently seeing anywhere between 300 and 500 migrants every day over the last couple weeks. The city is now turning to the federal government for aid in dealing with the steady flow of arrivals. The city says they haven't received any sort of response from the federal government in regard to using Fort Bliss to help house migrants and relieve some of the pressure already being felt. We have also reached out to Congresswoman Veronica Escobar's office to see what efforts she's making to help city leaders get the support they're looking for. We have not received a response. This comes as Title 42 is expected to come to an end on Monday. As always, you can stay up to date with what's happening in our area by signing up for our newsletter. Just go to cbs4local.com, enter your email address, and you'll start receiving our daily news updates.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Let's start out in the Low Valley on I-10 westbound approaching Loop 375, a crash reported. I-10 eastbound at Airway, a stalled vehicle's blocking the left shoulder. I-10 westbound at Sunland Park, a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. And an injury accident with paramedics on the scene, South Mesa Hills southbound between Sunland Park and Mesa. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We have another very similar night to last night under mostly clear skies, west winds to 15 miles an hour, and temperatures cooling back into the lower to mid 60s. For Thursday, we're back into the mid 90s, and then we'll start our gradual cool down with a cold front coming in to cool us down for the weekend. Unfortunately, though, it does increase our winds, so we're breezy to windy for Thursday, slightly stronger winds on Friday.
This report is sponsored by the Ad Council. There's no guidebook to adopting a teen, but that's okay because you don't have to know it all to be a perfect parent. Go to adoptuskids.org to learn more about how to be the perfect parent to teens in foster care. Sponsored by Ad Council.
Hey El Paso, Ivan Ochoa here, General Manager of Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Once again, we were El Paso's #1 dealer in Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram sales in April. Thank you, El Paso and surrounding areas.
The Memorial Day sales event starts now at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. And there's never been a better time to get more for your old car, truck, or SUV. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, we want it. So you can save big on every new and certified pre-owned vehicle in our huge inventory. 2022 Ram 1500 trucks with 0 APR for 60 months. All new 2022 Jeep Wagoneer full-size SUV with third row seating. 0 APR for 60 months. 0 payments for 90 days. Plus, we have aggressive lenders with great rates and terms, even if your credit is less than perfect. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying a car is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso. El Paso Strong. Includes factory rebate and dealer discount plus TTNL. 0 APR is $16.67 per thousand financed. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Wendy's Biggie Bag is still just $5. Get a double stack junior bacon cheeseburger or crispy chicken BLT plus 4-piece nugs, small fries, and a small drink. Grab your bag at Wendy's today. U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii. This report is sponsored by Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag.
Text and work.
Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to get at the show. Of course, we got our social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch.tv. Andrew J. Polk or Talk El Paso, the names to find us under on those platforms. We also got that phone line open right now. That number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A little bit more detail coming out. Again, some of the major topics we're discussing today. So those just joining us, Title 42 and a news briefing being held by El Paso Congresswoman Veronica Escobar, Democrat representing the Texas 16th Congressional District. Ending a little bit earlier today. We'll, of course, have some more sound bites for you in coming up shows. But specifically, some of the notes being pulled out by our news partners over there at KFOX 14 on the issues connected to the end of Title 42, saying, among other things, that there are going to be federal compensation for local government and NGOs that are, dealing with the surge here. And specifically informing the Annunciation House, you can be reimbursed by the federal government, and looking to pass legislation on this, and working on further border reforms here. Also saying that wanting to return Border Patrol agents in office of field operations officers to the positions they were trained for, rather than processing migrants. At least some of the major things coming out there. Louis Panado himself saying Title 42 is pushing the ocean back with a fly swatter. I mean, it's an imperfect policy. I don't feel like there's anyone out there, despite whatever the thoughts about the removal of it are, anyone saying because Title 42 was so perfect. There are absolutely no problems with it. Yeah, it's just the best thing we could have ever done, because now it's seriously flawed. I mean, it's barely policy. It's a directive. It's like a command line you type into a computer. If X, do Y. That's all it is. If in the country, remove them immediately, and it doesn't solve anything else. Like, okay, I'm sure there's some out there that would argue that, well, that's all we need to do, but it's not actually doing anything beyond that. Like, literally, if you think, and therefore everything else will go away, that super has not been the solution going on with that. So to say that we need to keep it in place because it's perfect, I mean, even the Republican lawmakers on the other side of this, including Texas Senator John Cornyn, saying that putting that piece of legislation to not allow for the removal of Title 42, essentially until there is a replacement policy in place. Again, given that he would be one of the lawmakers potentially proposing such a piece of replacement legislation, I would like to see maybe, like, let's just maybe skip straight to that, because that's the part we've been missing. And even if there isn't leadership on one side, I don't find it particularly useful for the other side to say, well, there's no leadership there. Maybe offer the leadership is what I'm saying, because a lack of leadership is, if you're going to call it as a problem, I think you should be more or less ready to actually, therefore, come up and provide it here. One other thing, Calvin Wim saying Title 42 was because of COVID. So, technically, yes, the CDC is the one that put this policy in place, even if there are further implications that have come out of court cases, among other things. I mean, the idea of them saying that, well, we are ramping down pandemic restrictions, therefore it should be ramped down in all places. Then, of course, the counter argument, well, there are still restrictions in some places, so why are we getting rid of this? It's a political decision. So hiding behind the idea that, well, the CDC did it and therefore it's apolitical, I don't think you've been paying that much attention to the CDC. They don't rule my life or that of my family by any means, but knowing what's going on there, looking some recent decisions such as that drawdown in the quarantine time they were suggesting, just kind of right in time for some of these early primaries, of course, here. And again, I know some people have called out saying the idea of the rank and file scientists being political is ridiculous. Sure, the people doing the actual lab work, those kind of things at the local, state, federal level within the CDC or any of the other relevant agencies at those other levels, I don't put much fault on them. But leadership is what we're just mentioning, that phrase here again. The idea of leadership continuing to fail, part of this is, more than a little bit of an issue here. So, yes, Title 42 was a pandemic restriction put in place under the, of course, Trump administration in order to just facilitate simple removals. It was part of that whole kerfuffle over removals, the Remain in Mexico policy, so-called, technically the Migrant Protection Protocols, or MPP. And this is the one that eventually kind of got settled on, was supposed to be not able to be circumvented, but it became increasingly porous, as was already been reported. So yeah, it's by no means perfect policy. And if we're really holding out for perfect policy, literally nothing would ever get done, because I'm not going to point to a law that is not maybe like one sentence in line. Like, I'll give it that good laws are probably the ones that recognize people for accomplishments and do nothing else. That's about the only thing I'm going to say is laws I don't have problems with, because, well, they don't actually have force behind them. They're, resolutions, things like that, the actions lawmakers take, because there's no law that is therefore completely immune from other consequences. But this one particularly problematic. Again, no real argument happening there, I don't feel like. If someone really thinks that Title 42 was the perfect law, please give us a call. I would love to hear that perspective, because I truly, among all the off-the-wall kind of perspectives we get, even on this program, doesn't think it exists here. Ed Clore, among other things, looks like we're going to need another tent city. I mean, there has been one of the things that the city of El Paso has been pushing forth is greater federal support. So some of these things coming out, again, of Congresswoman Veronica Escobar's news conference earlier today, we'll be having more of a breakdown for that here for you, of course, and tomorrow's show might be edging towards that. But, well, the city of El Paso asking specifically for not even just money, but personnel logistical support as well, including, well, referencing kind of obliquely, but what I take it to be those facilities on Fort Bliss, among other things, that someone else on this program brought up as well here. Another comment coming in as well, Maria Coleman saying, making any substance or activity illegal will not stop the activity. Those intent on using it will do so anyway. That's an interesting argument to make, going more towards the fentanyl or the illegal drug trafficking or other things, because that's a concept that has been getting examined in a variety of ways lately. Of course, here, I know you're probably talking about drugs specifically, but two other arguments that have come up lately, that of also guns, but also of, well, abortion, seems to apply to that kind of an argument. Not trying to put words in your mouth here, but as a general concept, what do we then do about that? If there's something that we have truly determined as something we do not want to see, we do not want to have happening, and we want there to be force of law behind, well, prohibition is a law that most expansive attempt at enforcing that kind of thing that comes to mind, and the serious issues that came along with that. There's other words I want to use there, because let's just say FUBAR was a good way to describe how that whole situation worked out. The only amendment to have been repealed from the Constitution for, well, a variety of reasons, but general failure, I think, is a pretty good overarching description of it. So then what do we do in response to that? Well, actual enforcement of laws on books, again, I find that to be a bit of a persuasive one, as opposed to saying we're going to heap on more laws. Whenever we talk about American government in general, two stats in general come out to me. They stick in my mind here, that the United States has one of the largest per capita incarcerated populations, and that also the United States has some of the, well, most laws on the books here. And I'm not even necessarily talking about laws that you may disagree with, but things you don't even think about. Because sure, we got the United States Code, Section 18 and all those parts that often get referred to. But beyond that, we also got then state codes, local ones, and ordinances here that the United States has a lot. We are quite the litigious society, and often we have it then enshrined in law that these things are not going to be allowed. Because you go to other countries, like one image that also sticks in mind, on a street, and I want to believe it was Sweden, at least one of the Scandinavian countries, there was next to a children's play place, a little, in kind of a concrete area, a trampoline that was actually built into the sidewalk, and the idea of there being a ability to jump safely. It wasn't huge, kind of like more one of those like exercise size trampolines, but built in, meant to be a permanent installation. And it was fascinating to me, because there was a ton of comments from people saying, oh, well, that just sounds like a huge liability. That could never exist. How has this not been sued out of oblivion? And there was like one commenter that was actually from the area, like, hey, this is actually in my town. We just kind of take it about is if you're using it, you're taking your risk with it, and leave it at that. If you get hurt, you knew what you were getting into kind of situation, and left it at that. Point is, there was no of this enshrining in law of, oh, there's so many things here. So upside is they kind of got to have not exactly critical, but kind of a cool thing, I guess. I mean, if it was a kid, I'd probably be more excited about it. But there's the idea of not having to be totally every aspect of this enshrined in law is not really a concept embraced by, let's call it the American public, or at very least the voting and those running for office sect of the entire American population. So, all of that is to say that the idea of not having things outlawed because it'll continue anyway, that argument has been being used in a lot of ways recently. So what do we actually do about it? I think it takes more of a concerted both societal effort and furthermore enforcing of what we already have. Because what was one of the major problems we saw during Prohibition was essentially the scofflaw aspect of it. The fact that people were saying like, okay, sure, it's the law, but I really want to do it anyway. And that leading to the whole, I mean, I did some recent study, history moment, I know, give me a break for a minute, but into the whole gangster era of the late 1920s, early 1930s, and how it was kind of embraced by certain segments of the population because they saw them as essentially going against, including, you know, the rum runners and all those guys, bootleggers, kind of can roll it into the whole concept because, sure, they were going against the law, and atrocities being committed by them were very justly enforced and hunted down in a lot of ways. But a lot of people in this general public saw it as, well, I don't think it's that big of a deal, so why should I care? And that idea, because really when you come down to it, laws are only as good as those willing to believe in them and enforce in them. And I've referenced this in the past, and I know it's a weird reference for some here, but the movie Mad Max, one of the things that I get, and really almost literally, in fact, literally does haunt my dreams, is the idea of this complete disregard for the concept of law. Because no, there is not a policeman on every corner. There is not someone watching to make sure and willing to swoop down and enforce you. This isn't classroom time. This is real life out in the larger world. So it takes average, everyday people willing to, well, believe in it and also see it continually and talked about, enforced community standards, is I guess what I'm kind of getting at there. Because if people are just saying, well, it doesn't matter, there will be no punishment, why should I do it for any reason besides the fact that essentially it's right and good? Yeah, we're not going to be doing that well, because the rule of law is truly, and I do mean truly, only as good as those that are willing to believe it and act on it. So without that in place, yeah, we got some trouble here. Calvin Williams saying, if we are not going to enforce the older laws, what is there to make us think we will enforce the new laws? Yeah, that's another very fine point. And once that starts getting ingrained as a thought, well, let's just say you end up in the Mad Max situations. And just to make it clear, I'm talking about the actual first Mad Max movie, because a lot of people think like Thunderdome, I know I make that reference too, is the Mad Max movie, but I'm talking about the first one where it's not totally post-apocalyptic. Go back and watch it if you haven't. It's actually a pretty slow-paced movie by modern standards. Yes, it's a revenge story. Spoiler alerts. There is that kind of moment that comes about getting revenge for the activities that happened, but it takes about 3/4 of the movie for it to get there. So the first time I saw it, I was totally disconnected from it because it just didn't fit up by my more modern standards about how that kind of narrative, it's usually in the first scene or two that the motivation for revenge gets established, but that's not really the point of that movie. So it's worth looking at if you're really concerned about these aspects about how we enforce laws, just to consider about it. Again, hack philosopher moment here, if you want to call it that. Tell you what, we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll tell you more about what we got coming up for you on the program, more of the guests, more of the talk, more of the discussion of the things that affect us here in the borderland. Want to squeeze in a call or two there. We'll get to what we can. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Joe Battle Boulevard northbound at Montwood, an accident reported. Another crash reported I-10 westbound at Mesa Street. Injury accident North Desert Boulevard northbound at Paseo del Norte. Got a disabled big rig tractor trailer on I-10 westbound at Wrestler Drive. That's blocking the right shoulder. And an injury accident South Mesa Hills southbound between Sunland Park and Mesa at Suncrest Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Brake Masters.
Quit staring at your phone. Just leave it alone and get the Brake Masters. Get your tires aligned, then get out there and see what you can find. Get your vehicle in Brake Master shape today. Download coupons and schedule an appointment from your smartphone.
Brake Masters. We give you an honest break.
New on Curiosity Stream. With superior armies comes superior weapons. How has innovation mechanized the battlefield? From bullets to battleships and everything in between, it's machinery of warfare. Plus, from the gross to the gourmet, see how that in-flight meal lands on your tray table. On secrets of your airline food. It's all on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today. For good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
This is Matt Crowder live at the gas station on 41st Street reporting on those skyrocketing gas prices. Excuse me, miss, are you buying less gas now because of the high prices?
Oh, I never pay full price for gas anymore. I just use the free Upside app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute, are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Upside app?
Yes, I get real cash back every time I buy gas.
Well, does that actually add up to anything?
I've made around $200.
Wow, well, there you have it. Stop paying full price for gas. Download the free Upside app and get real cash back every time you buy gas. This is Matt Crowder Radio News Network. Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code DRAG for a $5 bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, to PayPal, or any gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code DRAG for a $5 bonus on your first tank. That's code DRAG.
Comfort Keepers Las Cruces is now hiring. Call 575-521-4400.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. Keeping you informed and up to date. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Gone through a lot of stuff here today. We got more coming up for you. Again, some of those further conversations we'll be looking at include, well, more of those supply chain challenges and how, among other things, those costs of energy, diesel specifically, is impacting things, and just more to be aware of and to consider. Of course, also we got coming up for you, going to have more into some of those local implications for Title 42, because, well, there's a lot more to break down there. And, of course, we got Friday inside here, so don't forget about with those calls and those comments. Pound 250 is a way you can leave us a comment day or night if you prefer to do it that way. Again, the simple way to do that is by dialing pound 250 on your phone. You'll be asked to say a keyword, say Talk El Paso. When prompted, you'll be able to hear my voice there then and leave us a message day or night. We also got that talk back feature. Again, if you're tuned in to us over there on the iHeartRadio app, just look for that little red button next to the stop or play, either in this view or this one on the main page. If you're just searching it, if you can hear us and there's going to be a little bit of a microphone there, press that. It'll ask you to leave a message, about 30 seconds, and we'll have some contesting going through that. Stay tuned. Worth to get that downloaded and get it figured out for yourself here, but we do play those as well. Works for any of the on-air shows here. If you wanted to comment on a podcast specifically, make sure you're listening to the podcast otherwise. Otherwise, we got at least one more call here we'll get to before that next pound 250 call. We do have Al in the Northeast on the line here with us. Al, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call, Andrew. I just want to make a couple of quick points about people across the aisle. The Democrats in particular seem to cherry pick which laws they want to obey. I don't need to read off any cases because we all know what's going on. And the gun control people who continually write more laws, thinking that the law-abiding people are going to obey them. I mean, thinking that the criminals are going to obey them when only the law-abiding people obey the laws. We need to start, like you said, as you said, start enforcing the laws we have on the books without making up new ones that they think are going to solve the problem just because they passed a bill.
Yeah, the idea of the law being inviolable just because it's the law is just in lack of recognition of human nature, in my mind.
Well, look at what the Clintons have gotten away with, and look at what Biden's son is getting away with. I mean, come on, we have a bi-level a justice system where the elitists and the liberals think that the laws don't apply to them unless they really feel that it's necessary or whatever. It's just unbelievable what they get away with doing.
Yeah, and it's just the lack of respect that happens then for the enforcement of law when you start having that kind of a situation is cumulative in my mind. And if it allowed to continue, well, again, I think that'll then spawn greater problems than even those that are currently benefiting from it can really anticipate.
Well, the higher-ups have brought down other civilizations, and that's exactly what's happening here. People need to study history a little more.
Fully agree with you on that. I appreciate it. Thanks for the point in the call there. So I did mention that we have those pound 250 calls. Again, if you wanted to leave that kind of a message, pound 250, keyword Talk El Paso, leave your own kind of message, much like this.
This is Messiah Frankie. In the words of the great John McEnroe, you cannot be serious. These nutjob conservatives out there are all in a tither blaming the United States government for this nutjob being out there shooting these people at Buffalo. What kind of stupid stuff is this? I can't get over that. Just off the wall, totally off the wall. What is the matter with you conservatives? Have you lost your minds or something? Unbelievable.
Let me just say, I've seen a couple of different narratives going online. The idea that this was somehow a programmed thing, I am not finding much credibility to that. But the idea that this person was known about and was aware of to local law enforcement and that maybe some extra steps should have been taken. Because it's one thing, I know we've had some conversation because it just seems linked with the idea of red flag laws. But let's just say when someone is actively posting that, hey, by the way, here's my plan to go out and commit an atrocity, that should probably, just saying, trigger maybe a little bit greater of a response than your general, hey, someone posted some profanity online or posted a lewd picture, we got to ban them kind of activity. That seems to be most of the enforcement that happens online. I mean, credible intelligence and threats are one thing that should probably be taken a little bit more seriously. And we'll just kick it off here. Fred Marcus saying that it feels like going and watching Mad Max right now. Remember the Night Rider when you look up at the night sky. No, I'm not going to try to do an impression of that accent there here. But also, RJ, just to take it off here, our Constitution is not for an amoral people. We'll fully agree with that because people believing it and believing that there are right and wrong is pretty important. Not even just for now, but for our continued serious amount of continuation as a country here. So we got to leave it there for today. I want to thank everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. Stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles and down the road. Have a great evening. I'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Couple of crashes pretty close to each other. I-10 eastbound at Loop 375. A multi-vehicle three-car crash has got the left exit ramp blocked. I-10 westbound at Loop 375. A earlier crash has the right lane blocked. Joe Battle Boulevard northbound at Montwood. An accident there with police on the scene. 54 Patriot southbound at Liberty Expressway. Left shoulder's blocked by a stalled vehicle. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Hey, it's Maura Courtney Lopez, and we know life is better together.
Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
We are all getting together more, and Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath with just 2 rinses a day keeps us from worrying about bad breath in those up-close moments.
Go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find Smart Mouth at your favorite store to give you confidence as we get closer to each other.
Remember to make life's moments better together with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
The following program will be recorded.
You can't help but look at a car wreck on the side of the road. Yet we turn a blind eye to the things we should be looking at.
What are we doing? It's not like we didn't know. We know. We are turning our eyes.
The Glenn Beck Program.
I have no tolerance anymore for people who say, I just can't look at it.
Listen and look.
You don't have that option.
Glenn Beck. Mornings at 7.
What can you do? Here's something you can do.
News Radio 690. KTSM. Stay informed at KTSMradio.com. News on the hour and the hat. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Chris Coraggio. The Defense Production Act is being invoked to increase baby formula production in the U.S.
The Defense Production Act gives the government the ability to require suppliers to direct needed resources to infant formula manufacturers before any other customer who may have ordered that good.
President Biden is also launching Operation Fly Formula to use federal planes to bring formula in from abroad. It's been reported that over 40% of the supply of baby formula nationwide is out of stock because of this shortage. A new national poll from UMass Amherst finds President Biden's approval rating is below 40% for the first time. 38% currently approve of Biden, down 13% in the last year. Pollsters say negative opinions about the economy is dragging Biden and Democrats down. The poll's margin of error is 3.5%. New York Governor Kathy Hochul is taking steps to try and prevent hate-inspired mass shootings like the one in Buffalo this past weekend. Scott Pringle reports.
Governor Hochul says the most serious threat the nation faces is from within.
It's not from the Russians. It's not from people elsewhere. It's white supremacism. It's white nationalism. And it's time we confronted it head on.
The governor is creating a new domestic terrorism unit that will focus on stopping violent extremism on social media. Authorities allege a self-proclaimed white supremacist is behind the deadly hate-driven attack in Buffalo Saturday. Hochul is also calling on state lawmakers to